What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Daredevil Season 3, Episode 1, Resurrection. So, two things to talk about. First of all, I apologize if I look a little disheveled. Be perfectly honest, I'm having kind of a lazy day, so I just didn't really feel like getting all ready and looking slightly better than I normally do for a review. So, yeah, my hair looks a little off than normal. It normally looks a little weird, but that's why. I'm not trying today. I don't care. But yeah, so as far as what show I decided to do next, I kind of just looked at all of the options I had, and I was like, you know what? Let's knock out these Marvel Netflix shows. Because first of all, obviously Marvel is continuing to put out new stuff. Loki starts up this week, so I'll have that to be looking into as well. But also the fact that there's reports that Charlie Cox is going to be in the next Spider-Man movie. As Daredevil, maybe, who knows? But I never finished out these series, so I was like, you know what? I just finished Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Might as well keep the Marvel train going and just sort of finish out the rest of these series. But yeah, so we're starting off with Daredevil because that was the next in line. And then next after that is Punisher, and then finally the last season of Jessica Jones. And of the three that I have left, this is probably the one I was probably looking forward to this one the most because I really wanted to see them do better. Because I do remember I was very frustrated with Matt at the end of Defenders, just because of how they handled his character. Like, made him so obsessed with Elektra and like leaving behind everybody, basically sacrificing himself unnecessarily for her. And it seemed stupid. It just seemed weird to me, and it seemed like it was very selfish of Matt to be like, I'd rather die with Elektra than try to make it out of this building with my friends. Like, you're not going to save her, and so you're just basically killing yourself to be with her in her last moments. It was dumb to me, and so I really wanted to see them do kind of a redemption thing for him, hopefully. At least I hope that's what they're doing. I don't know for sure, but I just want to see something better than how that story ended. So far, slightly better. There's still definitely the frustration with Matt's character that he seems very selfish at the moment, and not that he's not done selfish things in the past, but it feels like he really is just focused on himself right now. And there's a lot of those scenes where he's just sort of complaining to the nun, complaining to the father, that he's just like, yeah, I'm just ready to die. It's almost like that's kind of his story for this one. And while he is getting his, I guess, his powers back slowly, like as the episode goes along, you can see he is recovering. So that is part of his story, but it still feels like at the end of the episode, he goes and saves that one daughter and her father, and he still just like decides he's gonna get beat up because I saved them, but yeah, I'm ready to die now, so go ahead, beat me over the head. And then the police show up and that saves him. I'm just kind of like, why? Why is this his story right now? And maybe they'll handle it well, but I really am not a fan of what they're doing with him at the moment. So it will probably get better. But again, that's why I wanted to dig into this show, because I'm like, I want Daredevil to go out on a high note. I want it to end where I feel like, okay, I'm happy with what happened with his story. I'm happy where he is now. Because at the moment, I'm definitely not. But yeah, overall, I mean, it was a fairly enjoyable episode. The stuff with Karen and Foggy I thought was enjoyable enough. They're kind of on the periphery right now, but you can see where Karen's just still struggling with the loss of Matt and, feeling like she could have done more, probably should have done more, and so probably out of that guilt, she's paying for his apartment. Foggy, of course, he always had kind of a rough relationship with Matt after he found out about him being Daredevil. And so the fact that he lost his friend because he was doing something that he didn't really want him to do, like, I'll be curious to see how he reacts whenever he finds out Matt's still alive. Like, I assume both of them are going to be pissed, and rightfully so. But you could still tell there's still that friendship there, and you can tell he doesn't really want to let Matt go either. Even though he seems to have come to grips with the fact that Matt's gone a lot quicker than Karen did. And then I think that was about it for them. The stuff with Matt at the church I thought was really well done. The one nun that was taking care of him she was awesome. Like I loved her giving him some tough love throughout the episode. A lot of what she said was very poignant and very well written. And it just I don't know. I enjoyed her character. I enjoy that's exactly the character that Matt needed to kind of give him a little kick in the ass to get going again. So I thought that was very well handled. And yeah, I mean it was a good progression. Like you see he is feeling sorry for himself. He is very much wallowing in self pity, and then she kind of tells him off on it. And then the next day, he has that recovery of his senses, and that gives him a little boost. But then he decides he's going to go into it way too quickly. He gets into that boxing fight, and then that's when he loses his senses again when he takes the one hit to the head. And I think that kind of dropped him back into the self pity, which is why he was like, "Oh, just kill me" at the end of the episode. So it was a good progression. I think like it made sense. I just am not a fan of what he's going through. But then on top of that, having the Kingpin back in the show, fantastic. I was a little confused because they were doing the whole thing with the FBI agent. We're seeing him with his family. I'm like, is this somebody we're supposed to know? And maybe he has appeared before and I just don't remember him. But I'm just sitting here going like, why are we just randomly focusing on this guy and his family? And then seeing that he has a sister-in-law who's been dealing with cancer, he's in massive debt, and then he's wanting a promotion, and they're just like, we don't want to give you a promotion because you're in a lot of debt, which makes you susceptible to taking a bribe. But here's this case, go check it out. And then he gets to the prison, I'm like, oh, so that's where this is going. You're sending in a guy. It is a little weird to me. They're talking about they don't want to give him a promotion because he's a liability, which makes sense. Because, yeah, he's in a lot of debt, which makes him susceptible to taking a bribe. Totally makes sense. But then you send him to this very rich criminal in prison to talk to him. It's like, you don't think that's a bad choice? You don't see the problem here? Like, you'd rather do this. You'd rather send him to a rich criminal than just give him a pay raise. Like, I don't know. I thought that was a little odd that they made that decision. But yeah, that's clearly how it's going to tie in to Fisk probably going to try to break out of prison. I don't know if he's going to be the main villain for this season or not. If he is, I mean, he's not a bad villain at all. And I mean, he's an awesome villain. It's what made a lot of season 1 so good. But to have him as the main focus and the main villain again would kind of make it a little bit like, okay, you're just sort of repeating season 1 now. You've got the same villain. So I hope they do something different with it, whether he teams up with somebody or maybe he has a completely different plan this time around. Maybe he's working from within the prison. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely got me excited to see how the season goes and what they decide to do with it, how they wrapped up his story, and yeah, that's it for this first episode. So on to the next one. See you there. And now episode 2, please. Yeah, it's getting interesting. It's got my attention. I don't know what to expect, to be honest. We see a bit more with Matt, in this one, and I really like kind of where they're taking him, how he's kind of going on this journey almost, this self-discovery, I would call it. And being a man of faith myself, like, I enjoy some of the stuff that they've been talking about over these 2 episodes, kind of that we've all been there, even if you're the most devout follower of whatever religion, we've all had our moments of doubt, and we've all had our moments of like, what am I supposed to do? And so a lot of what they've talked about over these 2 episodes, even, not just from Matt's point of view, because I feel like Matt is kind of the everyman in this scenario where we've all been here, and then, the nun, and then the father, whose name I can't remember at the moment, both of them are kind of like, yeah, we've been there, we get it, but, let me try to help you understand, because I've been where you are, and I've come through that, and I've come through better than I was before. So a lot of the talk, the religious talk that they've done in this show, I wasn't really sure how they were going to handle it, especially coming at it from like a superhero show perspective, because, I mean, yeah, most of the time whenever religion gets brought up in a show where there's magic and other worlds and gods on other worlds, it's kind of like, how does religion play into it? But I think how they've handled it so far, they've really captured kind of the heart of a lot of religious people, and they've shown kind of the struggles of dealing with what do you do whenever what you feel like you were called to do is not seeming to be your calling anymore. And just that kind of feeling of being lost. So I've really enjoyed all of that, and getting to see him, fight again in this episode was enjoyable. A little too jump cutty for me, and that's only because I hold this show at kind of a higher standard because they've done better than that in the past. They've done better than doing the jump cuts and kind of showing the fight play out and just flowing through it. In this one, it was just like cut, and then he's punching, and then cut to another side, and he's punching. I'm just like, that's not what I'm used to seeing in this show. So that's the only reason why I'm really talking about it, is just because it seems unnatural for Daredevil. I don't know if there was a reason why they chose to do a bunch of jump cuts, but there were a couple times where I'm just like, why did you need to cut that? Like, there was one in particular that I'm thinking of where it just it didn't really cut to a different angle. It was like he punched and then they cut, and it's still kind of the same angle but a little different, and then he punched again. I'm just like, why did you have to cut that? Like, that's that's the type of stuff you'd expect to see in like Taken or a Bourne movie. But for Daredevil, that's not what I expect to see. So I was a little weirded out by that. But everything else going on, though, really exciting stuff. I mean, the stuff with Karen and Foggy, they're still kind of outside of the main story right now, but we see Karen talking to the woman, finding out about this masked figure that saved her and her father. And I kind of figured that was going to be what happened whenever her boss told her to go talk to her. I'm thinking, okay, yeah, so this is what's going on. I don't know what this other story that she's looking into is supposed to be about. I don't know if she's looking into the possibility of Matt's body surfacing, which is why she's focusing on this one area. Or, I don't know. That's kind of the only thing I can think of, is she wants to find out whether or not Matt's alive. And so then, of course, she gets led to this woman, and then this woman's talking to her, and she kind of finds out, okay, so this masked man, black mask, very similar to how he used to be, is now going around and fighting vigilante style. Could this be Matt? And, of course, Foggy, trying not to get his hopes up, he's much more the cynical of the two of them, is, of course, like, look, we can't do this to ourselves. So, but yeah, I like their story right now. I like kind of how they are reacting to the situation, because it's very natural, I feel. I mean, they want him to be alive, but also they don't want to get their hopes up. But then, I mean, once they actually find out, I'll be really curious to see how they handle it, because so far they've acted normally, and I feel like the normal reaction would be that of relief, but then also of anger once they get past that relief. So yeah, I'll be curious to see what they do there. The stuff with Fisk, though, this has really been the part that I wasn't sure what to expect, and now that we're getting more into it, I'm really excited to see more of, because we see him making this deal, giving up this group. Nadeem, he's down on his luck, and this is a big collar for him, so he really wants to be a part of this because it'll be good on his career. It should help him, with getting promotion, getting more money. And he's almost kind of being like nearly pushed out, but he manages to push himself through, but then everything sort of goes wrong. And then that, final scene where whoever these Albanians are trying to take him, and yeah, I mean, it just all kind of goes wrong for him. And I still don't know what to expect with this group, because they talked about at the beginning how there's a lot of high-profile people, and I don't really know what the group is supposed to be about. I just know they call them the Albanians. So I don't know if it's like a terrorist thing, if it's a drug trafficking, if it's human trafficking. But apparently there are a lot of high-profile people involved. And then again, this could all be some sort of ploy set up by Wilson Fisk. It could be something where he's the one that's funding this group, or he set up this group that he is now giving up, so that way he has some leverage to get himself out of prison, and then at the right moment, that's when he'll finally make his attempt to escape. So that's still a possibility I'm not quite ruling out yet, but it seems like they were trying to kill him, but then this one agent all of a sudden comes out of nowhere and just, I don't know who this guy is. The subtitles gave him the name Dex. I don't know who he is, though. Based on his shooting ability, I want to say he's like Bullseye, because that's the only character in the Marvel universe that I know of that's this precise. I mean, he shoots through a car, through like darkened windows. He shoots through and kills somebody on the other side. He ricochets a bullet off of a light post to hit a guy. And I'm just like, This dude's a badass. It was such a cool scene. We didn't really get to see it fully in focus either. We just got to see like little snippets like through the windows. And it was just really well shot. But yeah, so this guy, he's an FBI agent, but I feel like there's something more to him, and I don't know who he's working for. I don't know if he's working for anybody or if he's just that skilled. He's just an FBI agent who's randomly that good. But whatever the case, yeah, I can't wait to see more of him, and I can't wait to see more of his fighting scenes or his, I guess, gunplay scenes, because that was a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, all in all, good build-up episode. Still not really sure where the season is going, but it's got me hooked. It's got me excited to see what's happening next, and really looking forward to it. So, on to the next episode. See you there. Now, episode 3, No Good Deed. So, we're kind of continuing the plot line of Matt makes a bunch of self-decisions and doesn't care what anybody else thinks. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, I can't get behind this. Like, it started in Defenders. There was some of it in season 2 of Daredevil, but really in Defenders is where it started to get like, okay, dude, like, you really are just the worst. Like, you don't care about your friends at all. You say you do, you say you're doing it for them, but you really don't care. Like, the way you're acting, it has no sense of what they actually want in mind. You don't really care what they actually want. At the end of this episode, he goes to see Foggy. Foggy wants to help. Karen wants to help. He's like, no, I can't get you guys involved. They're gonna get involved anyway, dumbass. Like, he knows them. He should know who they are. He should know that just because he's saying, hey, stay out of it, doesn't mean they're just gonna be, oh, Matt said stay out of it, okay, we'll just stay out of it. The best thing for you to do would be to work with them, because then you could keep really good tabs on where they are, if they're in danger or not. But instead, he just neglects all that and says, no, you can't get involved, Foggy. I don't want you to get involved. Don't do it. I can't stand this Matt. I can't not stand this Matt that just feels like he knows better than everybody else, and just he's making the best decision for everyone. He knows what's best. No, you don't. You're an idiot. So that's dumb, and I don't know if it's supposed to feel that way, because, I mean, he's supposed to be the main character, so we're supposed to root with him, but if I'm being honest, the way they're writing him right now is making me not really want to root for him. Like, I kind of want to see him get shit because he's making dumb decisions, so if that's not the intention, then they're doing a poor job of writing. But maybe that's what they're hoping to get out of the audience, and at some point he'll realize his dumb mistakes and he'll get past it. But for the moment, I'm a little frustrated with him. But outside of that, the stuff with Fisk, still don't really know what's going on with him. I like the fact that they're kind of keeping us guessing. Like, is he just doing this all for Vanessa? Is he going against the Albanians, giving up their whole syndicate because he truly wants to help Vanessa get in, and be done being not a vigilante. What's the word I'm looking for? Not an outlaw, criminal, I guess. There's a word for it though, and I can't think of it at the moment. But it is kind of interesting to see. Whenever the cameras are on, he's acting like, do we know where she is? And they're like, she's gone. And then the cameras turn off, and it's like, oh, well, actually, she's at the safe house, and they actually do know where she is. But it's still, like, either way, while he is lying about knowing where she is, he's still doing it, it seems, for her. So it's kind of like, okay, I mean, that's interesting. He's still a villain, he's still a criminal, clearly, but it does seem like he truly cares for her, and he is really doing this all for her. So, I don't know. Maybe he could turn over a new leaf for her, but also probably not. I don't know. But yeah, this whole story with him versus the Albanians is really keeping me guessing. I don't know what to expect. I don't know, is there's going to be a character we're supposed to know about that's kind of going against him right now, or if this is all set up as a ploy. Who knows? But we're finding out there's a little bit more information going on that we're not really too sure about, because like Karen's doing this story and she finds out that apparently the guy who was attacked was actually the owner of the hotel where Fisk is currently staying, but then right before Fisk went there, he got it, the guy was planning on buying it back, and then he got attacked, and so now he can't because he's in a coma. So it's kind of like, okay, so there might be something else going on here. Now, whether or not Fisk is actually involved, or if there's just some bigger plot that we don't know about, that's yet to be discovered. But I do like this this whole idea of, can we trust Fisk? Can he change? Because at the moment I'm thinking no, but they're trying to kind of make it seem like maybe he can, which is why I'm feeling like it's a no. But then again, maybe it's one of those where the world kind of turns him into the monster type of things. So he is trying to change for her, but then something might happen to her later on in the season, and then he just becomes the monster. Um, so that'll be an interesting storyline to see as the season moves along. What else? What else? What else? There's the whole thing with Matt having Fisk in his head. Kind of like it. I remember they did this a little bit with Jessica Jones in season 2, where Kilgrave was in her head. I wish they'd done it more because that was the only interesting episode of that season. But with him and Fisk, I don't know. Like, I kind of like those scenes a little bit. You know, there's some moments where I'm kind of like, okay, I see what they're doing here, but it also seems sort of out of nowhere. I can't remember if they did this before or not, but it just sort of happens. So if they did do it in season 2 and I'm just forgetting, then maybe it has been set up before. But because I don't remember, it just sort of comes out of nowhere. All of a sudden, he's talking to him in his head, and just like taunting him. I do like this idea though, because like there's this idea being planted, you know, in Matt's head by Fisk. It's like, okay, so you get your hearing back conveniently right in time to hear that I am being released from prison. Maybe God hates you. But what's funny, and I thought the nun was maybe gonna bring this point up and kind of like flip it around on him. It's like, or you could look at it as God gave you your abilities back right in time to be able to deal with Fisk, you know, because if anybody can, you can. So I don't know if they're gonna bring that point up later or if they really are just going with this idea like, no, God's just torturing Matt because, you know, he hates him. But I don't know. I thought that's kind of where they're going to lean towards, where it's like you got the negative side and the positive side. You know, do you want to look at this as a blessing or do you want to look at this as a curse? Because most of the things that happen to you in life, you could really take either way. You know, an opportunity confronts you and then you go for it and then it doesn't work out, but then that window closing leads to another opportunity that you wouldn't have gotten if you didn't go for that one that closed off. So it's like there's always that point in life where you can sort of take what you see in front of you and say, okay, well, is this a blessing? Or do you want to look at all of the missed opportunities and say, oh, well, I mean, look at all this bad stuff that happened to me. So maybe that's kind of the concept they're going for here, and it will play in more as the season goes along. But for the moment, it definitely does seem like they're leaning more towards the everything that happens to Matt is a curse, and they're really leaning heavily into it. So I don't see much of them like flipping the script on us in that sense. But and then the last thing is Dex, and he's still kind of a mystery. You know, at some point they're kind of asking him about his abilities. You know, Fisk saw everything that happened. And he's like, "Who are you really?" And then we see him talking to his therapist because he killed all those guys. Which, yeah, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know, one thing that does sort of put him a little off is the fact that those guys were like, "We surrender," and he just kills them point blank. So he's not really a good guy. Well, he is very good, and he is good at what he does, and he is working for the FBI. There's something off about him. And then we get to the end of the episode, and he was talking about this girl earlier on. I'm like, oh, that's nice. You know, he has some girl that he talks to at a bar, and she's a bartender, and it seemed like a nice moment. And then all of a sudden, he's sitting in his truck, and I'm assuming this is the girl that he was talking about. He's just watching her walk by. I'm thinking, that's a little creepy. Then she goes into a pizza place, and he pulls out a little telescope and starts watching her through that. And I'm like, oh, that's really creepy. It's like seeing her in the truck, that was already a weird step, but then you pull out the telescope and you're watching her from afar. You're stalking her now. So yeah, I don't really know what's going on with him. He, aside from the fact that he's an FBI agent and he's tied in with the Fisk detail, I don't really see a point for him. Again, he could be Bullseye, just based on his abilities, the fact that he didn't miss his targets when he was shooting earlier. It could be Bullseye. I don't know the name of Bullseye's character. I might have to look that up. I'm going to look that up real quick just to see. So, Marvel Bullseye. Let's see. What is his real name, though? I need to know the real name. Alter ego is Lester. Oh, okay. Notable aliases: Benjamin Dex Poindexter. There we go. So this is Bullseye. Okay, so I'm not stupid and crazy, and I just don't know Marvel comics as well as I should. But yeah, so that answers a lot of my questions now. So now that I know he's Bullseye, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's weird that he's working with the FBI, though. Because anytime I've heard him talked about, he's always been just a supervillain. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see how they decide to utilize him. I mean, again, that one fight scene was already really cool. Maybe he'll show up in Punisher Season 2, because that would really be awesome. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see what else they're going to do with him. That one scene alone has got me excited to see more of him. And it's just funny how that one scene, I'm like, is that Bullseye? And I don't know Bullseye's real name, and that's who he is. But anyways, with all that being said, that's it for these 3 episodes. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Daredevil reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next round of episodes. Peace out.